Julia, over to you.
Our regular viewers will know that for 3 years now we've been reporting on numerous extraordinary events in the Galilee region involving a man called Jesus and his claim to be God's promised king. We've been carefully reporting on his words and his actions. Who is this man and what has he come for? We've all been asking ourselves. But if you've been following events, you'll know that all this came to a dramatic end last Friday. Jesus was put to death at the place of the skull, killed as a common criminal after a trial some have described as unjust and unlawful. His death precipitated a string of supernatural events that we reported on at the time, and we witnessed the distress and the helplessness of his family and followers. This man really was the Son of God, an eyewitness who wishes to remain anonymous told us. Here at Jerusalem TV, we thought it was all over, but events have taken an unprecedented turn. I've hurried back to Jerusalem to interview Cleopas, a man who's witnessed something most surprising, which, if true, will surely change the course of history. Stay tuned, because what we're about to tell you will truly amaze you. Cleopas, thank you. I wonder if you could tell us about the journey you were making recently.
The journey itself was unremarkable. It was a walk from here to Emmaus and easily done. Takes about an hour, done it lots of times, and I went with a friend.
So what were you talking about together as you walked?
The only thing of any interest, to be perfectly honest, what you spoke about at the introduction, that Jesus had been killed, that our hopes had been dashed because he'd said he was the king and we were going to be his followers, and to be honest, that we felt in fear of our lives and let down because we'd given up everything to follow him, and now he'd gone.
And you said you met someone on the way?
Yes, a man came up behind us, as people do walking, and he seemed perfectly open and interested and asked us what we'd been talking about. So we said to him, well, you must be the only one who's not heard, because it's been the talk of the town. But we explained to him what had been happening, how we felt, and to be honest, it was nice to have someone who was outside Jesus' group of followers, who we felt we could trust, because he didn't look like one of the Jewish leaders, he didn't look like a Roman, and so we could speak frankly to him about how we felt.
And what did the stranger say then when you said all that?
He was brilliant, because he listened to this and he didn't talk about our fears or how we could make a go of things. He explained God's word to us. He looked at the Bible, stories that we knew, but we'd never connected together with them predicting and telling us that this would be God's plan, that Jesus leaving, being killed, wasn't a sign of God's plan going wrong. It was part of God's plan. And so he made things make sense to us.
And how did you feel then when he explained all of that?
It was like a veil was lifted. It was marvellous. We really saw then that our trust hadn't been misplaced, that this was part of God's plan, rather than God's plan going wrong.
OK, please carry on then. What happened next?
Well, we got to Emmaus and it was getting towards night and we were all feeling a bit hungry. So we asked if he'd like to come and eat with us, and he said yes. So we found a room, went up there, we got some food arranged, and we asked him, because he was the guest, to break the bread and to bless. And as he did so, our eyes were truly opened and we saw that it was Jesus. It had been Jesus all the time and we just hadn't recognised him because we weren't expecting a dead man. But he was there, he was alive. And all of a sudden it was just like when he'd broken the bread and blessed us before he'd gone to his death. He was there, he was alive.
That's absolutely extraordinary.
It was.
Well, you must have had a lot to catch up on with him then.
Oh, we could have spoken forever. But as easily as he'd come, he went. We knew that he was in charge, we didn't understand it, and we wanted him to be still there, but he'd gone.
So what did you do then?
Well, we waited for him to come back for a little while, but we knew sadly that it wasn't going to happen. The food went by the by, because we knew that this was fantastic news and all the other disciples would want to hear about it. So we legged it as quickly as we could back to Jerusalem. I'm sure the quickest we ever done that journey. When we got there, we found the disciples, we went upstairs, we were about to tell them, and they told us, because they'd also seen Jesus. He'd also appeared to them. He'd explained about what had been happening. He'd explained God's word to them, and we all knew that Jesus was alive. It was fantastic news.
That really is amazing. Cleopas, one final thing. Why have you decided to come on the television to speak to us about this?
Well, I said that I was frightened of being killed, and of course I don't want that to happen. But I see the bigger picture now. I see that God has a plan, and it's my job, because I've been shown that plan, to tell other people, and I'll pay the price.
What a remarkable and most surprising account from Cleopas there. Last Friday, when we witnessed the harrowing death of Jesus, it seemed utterly final, without hope for his followers, who had no idea that the seemingly impossible things he'd promised would happen 3 days later. A dead man, back to life, seen by many, and whose accounts would seem to show that he spoke the truth, even in promising things that only God can do. And on that bombshell, we must all ask ourselves a crucial question. Is this true? And if it is, what does it mean for us all? Now back to the studio.